So we have an esteemed panel today. Hopefully you guys can find their bios online. I don't want to waste time on that because I want to hear what all the smart things they have to say. Ray Aloni from BetMGM, Chrissy Thurman from DraftKings, Sue Page from NeoSurf, Jill Watkins from FanDuel, and last but certainly not least, Adam Orrington from Underdog. A great collection, a great conversation to be had, so let's get into it. One sentence. How would you describe today's RG landscape?
I guess I'm starting it off and going first. I would say we're at a critical juncture. It's dynamic, and it also requires everyone's involvement, operator, supplier, ancillary, everyone here in this room. You have to participate in it.
Good use of the comma.
I would say that we are at a pivotal moment where we are able to drive the dialogue, particularly as it pertains to education, collaboration, and innovation. I think we're at the precipice of more engagement than we've ever seen in the gaming space, particularly in the responsible gaming space, and I'm really looking forward to how all of us up here, but all of our peers in the room can engage and get the dialogue in our ethos expanded even further.
I think it's still a work in progress, but we have the opportunity to start to reframe, collaborate, cooperate, bring everybody into the conversation, which is why I'm happy to be amongst these esteemed colleagues today.
I think it's a real time of collaboration, as everyone else has said, and as well investment. And I think everyone and the majority of us all agree that we need to do those things in order to really lean into innovation, education, and just really try and build a sustainable industry where we're really promoting safer play. And similar to Sue, I think we have made progress in a lot of those areas, but we have more work to do if we really want to reduce that stigma and just really build upon that sustainability.
I would say we can all see the North Star, and we agree on the North Star, but we cannot agree how to get there together.
Good, that's deep. Really get your money's worth on this one. Let's dig into it, though. So where are we seeing the most progress? Maria, I'll start with you.
Sure. I think there's been a lot of progress. An example is direct access. We're talking about what problem gambling is. We're providing direct access. For example, BetMGM has just announced that we're expanding our Kindbridge behavioral health program into 8 additional states. And this provides a link within the app for anyone that's self-excluded or anyone who has had RG accounts closed for RG reasons rather, and this allows individuals to get an assessment if they would like to and get treatment for potential problem gambling issues, and it's telehealth as well, so we've never been at a time where we're able to provide more direct access.
That's right. Adam, what do you think? Where are we seeing the most progress in the RG PG space today from an operator's perspective?
Yeah, to me, from a macro level, just the understanding of what RG even is, the concept, and how you apply that. Obviously, you say responsible or safe. Everyone on the stage might have a different definition of that. But understanding that users need to understand their play, their spend, their time. We've made tremendous progress even the last 2 to 3 years. So I think from a comprehension standpoint, we've made great inroads. The next step is, I think, really improving social norms and how we can help each other even further.
And I think today's kind of a testament to that. You know, this event has been around, iGaming Next, Next.io has been around for 3 years, 3rd edition, and now has an RG add-on to it because this topic can't be just a couple of sessions. It warrants, the need to have broader and deeper conversations. And I think a session that could be one on its own are misconceptions. So Chrissy, what is a misconception about operator RG efforts today?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is that operators don't really care or they're not engaged enough. And I was just having a conversation earlier with a colleague from Massachusetts. And I think what I said is I wish you could see the passion and the commitment and the dedication from the employee's standpoint, because there is such an amazing culture being built and an environment where people are wanting to get into this space as a career path, and I think that's tremendously beneficial. But the translation to it is to the outer stakeholder base can be challenging. And so I think where we really need to put our efforts is really kind of destigmatizing responsible gaming, as we all sit here during Problem Gambling Awareness Month, and really kind of, as Adam said, kind of, stop conflating problem gambling and responsible gaming, and really helping our players understand that responsible gaming is for everyone. It's not just for someone who might have a problem. And we know that people who engage with the problem gaming tools and resources the ones who don't engage with it because they don't think they have a problem. And it's really a safeguard. It's not because you have a problem that you engage with the tools. It's so you don't develop one, or you keep yourself in safe parameters. So I think that's one of the misconceptions.
That's right. It's something we see in our research too, or just in conversations today. I think we started out talking about, this today being about addressing what happens when people have gone too far. And RG is so much more than that. It's a spectrum. It's the education and the proactive side of things, but it's also making sure the industry meets its obligation to help protect those who need additional help. Sue, what is something, kind of a misconception, you see and would want to address?
So from the non-operator on the panel, I think really from our perspective, the misconception is that it's either solely the player's responsibility or it's all the onus is on the operator. And really it's every single stakeholder. So from a payments company perspective, really anyone within that ecosystem, we all need to take responsibility, because in reality, responsible gaming is a cooperation and a collaboration between every single piece in that ecosystem, so that we can come together to create cohesive strategies and real tools that we can implement to keep that player healthy.
So, RG just doesn't happen in a vacuum. It's not just the functions that you have. It has to go across culture. It has to go across technology. It has to go across products. So let's spend a minute on each of those. Jill, I think one of the things that's interesting about how you've evolved in your role at FanDuel is how you've gone from this broader operations role to focus on RG. So how have you leveraged that to integrate RG into the culture at FanDuel?
Yeah. I think the culture part is just so important. Like, everyone needs to really believe and feel like they have a part to play in it, because they do. And I think a big thing that FanDuel has tried to do is to really, really make it clear that everyone's a champion of responsible gaming. Everyone has a role to play no matter where they are in the organisation. And I think we have done that in a couple of different ways. I think training is super important. I know training is something we all heavily rely on, but I think having new people joining the company have their mandatory training. We provide training on a yearly basis to all employees to make sure that they are enhancing their learning in the space. We also, at FanDuel, we tie some of our annual bonus goals to engagement with responsible gaming tools. So employees are very much bought in to really forwarding these initiatives and making sure that we're really landing the sentiment that this is important. I think other areas where we've really tried to lean in is by having responsible gaming champions within FanDuel. So we have a process where individuals can be nominated when they feel like people are really, really championing internally what it means to really exhibit the behaviours of what responsible gaming is. And there's something in it as well for employees. They get points that then lead to people getting gift cards and swag and other things that are quite tangible for them. I think other ways we do it is kind of, as Kirsty said, like, we're in PGAM month right now, so how do we really live that across the organisation through events during these months? So this month, for example, we're working with Epic Solutions, and they're doing their Live seminars, which are fantastic, and they're a fantastic company to work with this, to just really bring it all to life and just make people live and breathe it every day.
Rhea, how about BetMGM? How are you bringing this into the culture of the company?
Sure, absolutely, and I'll build on what Jill said, and it really starts at the top. It starts at the CEO level. We have a CEO on our panel, and we all have CEOs of these companies up here, and we care. The CEOs care. If you ask them about responsible gaming and responsible gambling, they care about it. They acknowledge that the success of our industry is based on the sustainability of it. And so they're talking about that. At your company town halls, at our company town hall, we're discussing what we're doing around problem gambling, responsible gambling. We're building it into the core initiatives like Jill mentioned. And then we're doing a lot of training. It's not just click-through modules. It's in-person training. It's quarterly refreshers. People learn in different ways. And so you're trying to hit it at multiple areas, not just at the very top, not just at the very bottom, at the middle as well. And you build it in all these areas throughout your company. You talk about it. You make it exciting. You make it something that's not just a compliance and a responsible gambling team matter, but it's something that the company as a whole cares about. And so when you do it that way, then you end up with a company that thinks about it, that talks about it, and that knows about it. And that's really, we talked about that at the beginning. Understanding what responsible gambling is important. And so you build it across your culture.
That's so right, and it's not just you all saying that your CEOs care about it. I live that in my day-to-day at the AGA, where our members are, whenever Bill, our CEO, is talking to your bosses, the conversation always, how are you? How's it going? What are we doing about RG? And it's a very sincere commitment to RG and the conversation in this space. So culture is one piece of it, but technology, it's been touched on a bit in the conversation today. It'll be touched on a little bit later. How is this playing a role, Sue, Chrissy, in education, detection, intervention? How is technology and how we've come from this kind of more brick and mortar companies into online really elevated the RG space, and what are the challenges there that we have to address?
From our perspective, we don't see the wager, but what we do see is patterns and behavior. So we see the deposit, we see withdrawal, we see repeat deposit, and so we have the data management and the decision science behind that. So our way of thinking is, how do we bring that to the operators? How does that create something that we can build a cohesive plan that will help us create new tools, more intuitive tools, because we have that decision science behind that will give us more of an indication of what those players are doing at the point of deposit.
Yeah, and I think to build on that is that as we are thinking about where we can detect problematic play early in the player's journey, as early as we possibly can, I think there's a lot of innovative things that we can start to look forward to. I think providing players with information about their play and how they do that in a way that makes sense and they can look at. So, for example, we have just implemented a My Stat Sheet at DraftKings, where players can go in, and it's kind of like Apple Health. People can go in and see every bet they've placed, every loss they've had, how much time they've spent on site, and it's done in an infographic so that people who are used to being in this space and seeing things a certain way can see it, and it's really meeting the customer where they're at. And I think also it's incumbent upon us to really listen to the players and understand how they interact with our products and what makes sense for them to see and engage with and build upon that. And like you said, Jill, it's about us. Sorry, Sue. It's about us being able to really engage this player base so that everybody is engaged with it, not just segmenting populations. And I think that again stems back to really being able to figure out how to identify patterns of problematic play early in the player journey.
Yeah, it's a really unique moment where this technology and customer service and machine learning are coming together to help us better understand responsible gambling and how to keep that healthy play and positive play and understand the risks of risky play and how to engage there. I think core to that, Adam, is the product roadmap. How is RG integrated into the product roadmap so that the people building your colleagues who are building this product for your customers are thinking through a lens of RG?
We'll never be afraid to buy your product leaders a beer here and there so you can get time on their calendar.
Responsibly.
Always responsibly, take an Uber there back and forth. To me, the touch points have to be continuous. It can't be meeting once a month. It can't be meeting once a quarter. I'm very fortunate, Underdog. Next week, we're launching a new sports betting product. So really, from the ground floor, how is RG being built into that? It's been a very unique opportunity for me in my career, but really for the company as a whole to think a different way as you're building a new product. Of course, we all evolve our products all the time. Right? How does RG play into that? How and when do you communicate with customers? How do you let them know of the resources? How do you do it in a way that has some friction, not too much friction? We all talk about that in the journey of our customers. But it's really, to me, forming relationships and continually assessing goals moving forward, because our product teams have so many goals and so many priorities. RG always has to be paramount, and if it's not, our customers will suffer.
Is RG a kind of product goal across your organizations? Is it something that, as somebody is building a tool or a feature, RG has to be part of the check mark?
To one of your earlier questions, Kate, I think that's been the evolution of RG, probably all of our companies, is those checkpoints are happening. In 2019, they're happening, probably not nearly as much as they're happening now. I can't speak for every company here, but that is a positive evolution, because the future of our industry and all our companies are centered on RG and player protection. If we don't protect our customers, we're not going to have a product. So it has to be first and foremost.
And I'll piggyback on that if I can. I think one of the things that, as Adam alluded to, is that it is an evolutionary process, but all of us up here tick the box because we have to in a regulatory aspect, but we all go above and beyond. We provide more tools, more resources, more engagement. Rhea mentioned Cambridge Behavioral Health. DraftKings is engaged with them, throughout the player's journey. If somebody self-excludes, they are immediately provided a link to get services and get involved in a telehealth, an assessment that they may not have had access to before. So I think the evolution of just ticking the box is kind of passe. We are all going above and beyond, and we want to go above and beyond. I'm a huge proponent. If somebody engages with it, then the tool works because it worked for somebody. So we're always evolving our tools, our resources, and our information. So I think it's really incumbent upon us to do that.
Yeah, I think the last thing that you'll find with operators is, some years back you didn't necessarily have product teams or portions of them completely dedicated to the RG space. And now likely across all of the companies up here, we have product squads that are dedicated to RG. Day in, day out, they're thinking about RG and our products and how we can continue to provide better options to the players, and think about that.
There's probably an old school point of view at this point that RG is kind of directly in contrast to commercial interests, that if we're going to do RG right, we're going to limit RG interests. Does that friction still exist? And if so, is it most pronounced in culture and product and technology? Throw that to the group.
It's a tough question. It's a really important one, though. All of us, I'm sure, look at our businesses in the long term, right? We have short-term reporting requirements. We have long-term goals. And without RG being at the core of what you're offering your customer and understanding the resources and understanding how to manage your play, you're not going to have customers for a long time. Most of our customers are playing on multiple platforms, right? 3/4 are playing with 2 or more operators, right? So it has to go across the board, too. How can the experience have a level of similarity if you're going from any of the operators on this panel going to their platforms? Those resources need to be consistent. They have to go above and beyond, as Chrissy said, what is required from a regulatory point of view right now. But we have to see that North Star that I alluded to before in terms of player protection. Our industry is going to be in trouble, and unfortunately we can look to other markets to understand the challenges that could be there if we don't maintain that focus.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think for us, we really don't see them as counter to each other. They're very much hand in hand. And one of our biggest stakeholders is our commercial function. And we're not talking to them about, oh, should we do this or that? It's we're going to do this, and how to make sure everyone's aware of it and everyone's brought in, and for that championing it across the org, that everyone is brought in on what we're doing and what we're trying to achieve on that North Star. And I think even, you mentioned it, Kate, my background is commercial. I came from the commercial function in FanDuel and moved over 6 months ago into responsible gaming. And I feel like part of that was this view that it is all part of the same piece, and we can't build sustainable long-term business where we're all here in 10 years' time if the two don't go hand in hand.
That's right. It's changing the curve from this to this, right? So, Sue, as a supplier in the ecosystem, what role do payments companies play in advancing RG and the conversation we're having today?
We think it's fundamental, and honestly, I'm surprised when I talk to our peers and other payments companies as to why they aren't embracing it as fully as we are. Every single transaction is starting with payments. We're at the beginning of the money flow. So why are we not looking at that entire ecosystem and what we can do to help to support those players. And we have a lot of these tools in place. I mean, what we're talking about in terms of building our product is that it's not really a stretch for us as a payments company, because we're doing the AML, we're doing the KYC, and we're checking on value, volume, and velocity, and we can recognize vulnerable people and any other V's that anyone wants to throw at me. But all of that infrastructure is already there. So for us, when we're looking at that product roadmap and we're looking, we're just launching into the US, so it's given us an opportunity to say, well, listen, RG is a key part of our strategy, but the rest of the payments companies need to step up and be part of this with us, because we want to build a long-term sustainable category for all of us. And I think that payments is, like I say, it's absolutely fundamental, because that's the starting point. So whatever we can do to help protect, educate, provide information, data sharing information with the operators, and we create a much more holistic approach, then that has to be a positive.
It is so true that, this is all about collaboration. It's not collaboration amongst this group only, but also the various parts of the ecosystem. So, Jill, where are we getting collaboration right?
I think we're getting collaboration right in more places than people realize. Kind of what Chris was saying, like, people don't realize what's going on behind the scenes. So, like, we work so closely with regulators, non-profits, leagues, teams, media companies, everyone, all with the same intent of, like, trying to fuel this view of destigmatizing it, normalizing the conversation on responsible gaming, and just getting more people involved. So, like, a couple of examples where even all of us have been involved in has been the recent You Never Know When campaign that came out with the NHL, the NBA, MLB, and NCPG, and many of our operators in the industry. And it's a fantastic 30-second spot. Would encourage anyone who hasn't seen it to watch it. And it just really showcases the view of trying to normalise the conversation and ensuring people know when they should and shouldn't place a bet. Other areas that we collaborate on consistently are with our leagues as well generally, and we use a lot of their spots in stadiums, and they have been a super, super partner for us to just really amplify our message around responsible gaming. And then there are other pockets of it too. With FanDuel specifically, we recently launched with Front Office Sports, a first of its kind educational program to really kind of teach people more about responsible gaming. And then obviously, Kate, with you guys in the AGA, like, we collaborate massively with you guys to really ensure that we're evolving our efforts across the industry. We have our marketing pledge there, and we're just constantly in conversation to ensure that we're evolving, but we're evolving as a collective, and I think that that's super important as well.
Well, we know it's not all sunshines and rainbows. So, Maria, where are we falling short when it comes to collaboration? Where are the areas that we need to improve on this?
Yeah. I think it's in ways it's the same areas. Yeah. The areas that we're improving on are the same areas that we need to continue to improve on. And I'll give one other example that we've made great strides on, and it's not trivial, but 1-800-GAMBLER, being able to use one hotline, very large, in all your advertisements, that's meaningful. If you're a person on the other side of it and you need to call a number, I don't know about any of you, but I remember only a few numbers. It's my home number growing up, my own cell phone number, 911, and 1-800-GAMBLER. I don't remember the other ones, and it's very difficult to expect other individuals to as well. So we need to continue to find areas like that that are best for the industry, best for regulators, best for operators. It involves local chapters. I think another area that I would recommend everyone to participate in more is conferences, not just this one, but NCPG, Ohio Problem Gambling Conference, and you listen. You attend those, you listen, you see what the local treatment providers are saying, you engage, and then you take that back to your individual companies, and that's meaningful, and you learn so much at those conferences.
And I will say there's been an evolution there. My first conference, probably a month into the job at the AGA, I went to, I won't name the conference, and I was like, oh, I'm from the AGA, and they're like, oh, why are you here? So, and today that's not the case. Operators are speaking on panels at these sessions. We're having conversations. We're convening in a way that is productive. So there's definitely been a shift in all regards. Not to say that doesn't happen on occasion now, but I think we've all realized that while, we might not have the same way to get to the goal, we all have the same goal here, and that's to protect players and create a healthy, sustainable industry. research is key, right? We can't do any of this stuff without research. And, what areas of research and exploration are most needed? And Chrissy, would love you to jump in on this one.
Yeah, I think research plays a significant weather vane in how we move forward. And I think we've all talked about how evidence-based research is so important in driving our programs and moving the needle. It is incumbent upon us to really engage with the research community and fund research, which does not mean when we fund research, we fund the researchers to do the research to help guide us. And I think that things that we're going to be seeing more of are research in areas that help us understand our players' behaviors, understand areas where we can intervene in ways that make sense. So working with screening devices and engaging with screenings on our platforms so that people can take a break. And I also think that, to just piggyback a little bit on what you were just saying, Kate, I think it's really important for us to change the narrative of responsible gaming, right? I think, positive play is something that's come up a lot. And as I had mentioned earlier, the dialogue around responsible gaming isn't resonating in the way we want it to. And we have an opportunity now to engage with our researchers to test language, to figure out what works, what doesn't work with the players. And so positive play is something you're hearing a lot more come up. And I think it's, if we can educate and get people more engaged with feeling comfortable with engaging with the resources available, I think that's really important. And having the evidence to back that up will allow us to drive forward faster.
Jill, anything you want to jump in on there?
I think everything Chrissy says is spot on. I think for us as well, we'd love to understand more about different pockets of our customer base. So more about the younger customer, what we can do there to really make sure that we're leveraging and leaning in there. I couldn't agree more with everything around how do we make messages that resonate and really align with users and meet them there, and just make sure that we understand what customers want and we kind of break down again that stigma that we've all talked about. I'm really leaning into it, but I think for us it's around messaging and just really understanding what customers are trying to get out of the product as well, so that we're building evidence-based products for everyone.
I think just to jump in on that, we have the same theory, right? Was that with our products that we can use that same language so that we can talk to the player because it's a wallet. And I think what makes us very unique is that we can see what the player is doing over multiple different operators, right? So we have that additional layer where we can talk to each other again, that transition of data and data sharing, so that we can actually see what they're doing across that platform rather than just with one individual operator, and that's really powerful.
Because even how we all talk about it, as Anna mentioned, is slightly different, but yet a lot of our customers are shared. So how do we get aligned as well with different parts of research so that customers are seeing the same message everywhere and they're resonating with it regardless?
That's right.
Yeah.
We often have these RG conversations, and operators sit in the audience and hear the industry needs to do more, and this idea that it's all up on the industry, and to me the industry is all of us. If you're in this room, you are the industry. So Adam, what more? We're talking a lot about what operators are doing, what we could do more. What are other stakeholders needing to do more of in this space?
So as you speak of the industry, Kate, like any industry, we get bogged down in the echo chamber sometimes, right? Well, the AJA said this, and FanDuel said this, and BetMGM said that, and oh my God, what are we going to do? We're gonna, and we kind of sometimes get a vicious cycle sometimes. What we need to do is take a step outside the echo chamber at times and have a better understanding of what our consumers need and want to hear. We're only going to make progress if we talk to them in a way and provide resources and products in a way they want to engage with. And I don't know about everybody else on this panel, I don't like being told what to do. But if you have a conversation with me with a suggestion, right, if Jill kind of nudges me a little bit, that's a great thing. So a huge believer in social norms. We need to further understand how all consumers, whether that's a 65-year-old consumer or a 25-year-old consumer, how do we connect with them? It's not a one-size-fits-all approach. We need to differentiate how we connect, and we have to continually do that, and we have to go wider, and that's with all of our partners, whether it's an influencer, a team or a league partner, network partners. We're all spending lots of money on media. How do we do that in a way that's going to connect and be a continual commitment?
and making sure our employees,
You're good.
making sure our employees are educated. And I think that's imperative because, as I've said before, I'll say it again, I really believe the best informed employee base will translate to the most informed player base. And I really think that putting an emphasis on making it a priority, making sure that there are educations and trainings, as Rhea said, in multiple ways and engagement is really going to help drive everything moving forward.
I thought a lot about this question, and I thought about if I was in the audience, what would be one thing that someone could say that maybe everyone in this audience could actually take home and go do, no matter who you worked for, where you were at in the industry. And one thing that I thought of was call your local problem gambling chapter, have a phone call, sit down with them, understand what their needs are, understand what their missions are, understand who they're working with in the industry, and how you might participate in that, because that gives you a really good insight, whether it's the city, the state that you live in, or where your business is in, and that is always a starting point.
It's a great idea, and I hope you all take it, especially during Problem Gambling
I was going to
Awareness
say,
Month.
you can find
Maybe
the full
wait-
list
yeah.
on the NCPG site. So
Maybe wait
it's
till
all
April.
there.
They're all a little busy right now. So I'm going to skip to our final question. We're almost at time here. But let's step outside of reality. And I'm going to give you a magic wand and $1 million. There's no regulatory interests. There's no commercial interests. You can do anything to advance the RG space. What would you do? We'll go.
Well, since I'm going to go first, I'm going to list all the things so that you all have I'm kidding. I'm going to tell you what I want. And what I want is a harmonized self-exclusion list. Mm-hmm. I think that would help us immensely as an industry.
I want people not to think that responsible gaming is only for people who have problems. I want it to be melded into the ecosystem of part of player behavior.
I want it to remain fun while being intuitive and serving up messages to that individual player that allows them to make choices at the point of deposits.
I want all those things. And I would also, kind of going back to the previous question, more research. I just think it's so hard for us to really make progress if we don't have enough research there.
$1 million. I like that number. So at Underdog, we launched a fund we're calling Guard Dog, which is a commitment of at least $1 million to invest in companies focused on RG technology. Education, treatment, education, these are all paramount needs in our industry, but we also need to invest in technology. So we want to invest in companies that have an idea, that need some funding, need some mentorship to scale their businesses that ideally we at Underdog implements, but every operator in this panel considers implementing as well. So what I'd like to see is more investment in RG technology so we can detect and intervene quicker.
Well, you guys are so efficient with that. We have a couple minutes. So, any final thoughts for this group? Any final commentary you want to add about how we stop, collaborate, and listen? Go for it, anyone. Open mic.
So a couple things. I would say one, it's great that you have an RG Symposium, and it's great that many conferences have that. We need to integrate the RG tracks even deeper into industry conferences moving forward. It's paramount. The future of our industry depends on it in many, many ways. And we need to keep talking and working together. I mean, this is great to see this cross-operator panel and, of course, having a payments provider as well. The more we can work together and get out of our own silos, whether it's in our companies, in our industry, solutions are going to come from all kinds of places. We have to be open to listen and ideally implement.
I will add that there's no competition when it comes to RG. We're all in this together. The sustainability of our industry requires it. And when it comes down to the RG space, we do collaborate and we do listen. There's no exclusivity. We're talking together, we're working together, and you'll see a lot more of that in the years to come.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to that. I think that responsible gaming really is the forefront of the industry right now, and normalizing the dialogue, normalizing panels like this at conferences, and then really having the the players that need to be in the room to engage in dialogue is tremendously important. And it kind of goes back to what I harp on which so much is education and information.
Yeah, and it's the part as well that's like honestly surprised me the most in like the past couple of months. Like when I joined the responsible gaming team at FanDuel, I met pretty much everyone here pretty soon after that. And we genuinely do collaborate and we talk frequently, and I know how much it means to us, and I know that that is shared across everyone else's companies. I think that's such a huge benefit, and one that hopefully will bring us far.
People are always surprised when I'm like, yeah, Keith White and I are getting coffee. It's our monthly coffee with Keith. And they're like, what? I'm like, you guys aren't supposed to be friends? And there's just a through line here that everyone wants the best. We might have different ways of how we get there, and we might not agree on 100% of the things, but we truly want to do this for the right reasons. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Sue, I'll give you final thought.
I would just like to see more payments companies involved in the discussion. Love it.
Well, thank you to my esteemed panel here. A great conversation, and hopefully you learned something.
Thank you.